Good afternoon, dear friends and colleagues and family of Audrey Paterson. I think you started something, Rita. I'm very honoured to speak on behalf of the hundreds and hundreds of women that have been associated with the Western Businesswomen's Association over the past 30 plus years. Before I begin, however, I'd like to acknowledge and thank Charlene and Lois and Denise for organising today's celebration of the life of Audrey Paterson. Thank you very much. My first impressions of Audrey were that of a quiet, seemingly, I think this is going to sound rather repetitive, but anyhow, my first impressions were that of quite a seemingly quiet and demure, totally classy lady who always appeared to know everyone and was also always surrounded with what appeared to be lifetime friends at WBA meetings. I really didn't know this lady for the first year or so of my membership of the organisation because I was all consumed and nervous about my own tensions having just joined this organisation of very impressive businesswomen and entrepreneurs. Gradually I learned that this was Audrey Paterson, that she worked for BCAA Insurance and hardly ever spoke about herself, but always reflected on other members and their accomplishments, or shared information on issues and events that were happening in the community that related to women and leadership. Audrey, in her quiet way, seemed to have an unspoken power over you. Just a look, a snippy, humorous little comment that was always needed to assure you that she was on your team. She had great expectations for you, and you would not for a moment want to disappoint. On many occasions, we would arrive at WBA meetings at the same time. Her greeting often was just, "Hey you," which I interpreted as, "I know and trust that what you've been up to, and you have, of course, been advancing the cause," which was her passion for advancing the cause of women. And her cause was also, I believe, mentoring and encouraging others to strive for excellence in all that they do. Audrey and I didn't spend a lot of time making small talk because Audrey always had a strategy she was working on, a strategy or a game plan that would enhance and advance the role of women in the community, and in particular the business community. It was a while before I fully comprehended what Audrey had accomplished in establishing the organisation. The organisation provided a forum for personal growth and development, a forum for establishing firm and respectful business relationships, which comfortably grew into lifelong friendships. A forum that provided the opportunity to mentor and to be mentored. A forum to practice leadership skills, to learn about governance and taking personal risks. Also the freedom to really care about issues and reach out to others. The influence of the WBA, which is so ably described by Lois in the program that you have this afternoon, directed so many of us on a life journey that we all knew reflected the personal values of Audrey Paterson. For me, an immigrant from Australia that had left behind a close-knit sisterhood, both of family and my chums from school and college, found another family of valued friends that has endured since the early 80s. And although the WBA disbanded a few years ago, I still treasure the friendships through curry dinners organised by Kathy Sainty, evenings attending unique lives organised by Lois, and wonderful lunches and dinners with the rewinds, as Audrey fondly referred and Rita spoke about. The WBA Rewind Club includes Betty Port, Gwen Sharp, Bernice Davidson, Rita Moran, Pamela Oram, Pam Williams, Marlene Baldwin, and Irene Croden, and of course the late Kip Davison. Unfortunately, many of the rewinds couldn't be with us today, but I have some personal messages that I'd like to share. From Marlene Baldwin, who's attending her son's wedding in Brazil, she says, in honour of Audrey, "Thanks for this opportunity," she said to me. "I think that what Audrey taught me as a young entrepreneur was that in order to reap the rewards, you must be prepared to take the bad times and hold your head high. Have strength in your convictions, compassion in your heart, and your goals ahead of you." And then from Betty Port, who's in Germany, Betty says, "My story is much the same as the others, I'm sure. When I attended my first WBA meeting, I was befriended by Audrey and Liz. They took me under their wings, made sure I met people, and had someone to sit with. We stayed friends from then on, never super close best friends, but in sync with one another. and the unofficial organisers of the, Betty calls us the retrade groups, but that's Betty's impression. I often reflect, she says, I often reflect on that first WBA meeting and think that if it hadn't been for Audrey and Liz, both now gone from our midst, that I probably would not have attended another meeting. And what an experience I would have missed. And then Pamela Oram says, for the longest time I was in awe of Audrey. She always appeared small and sometimes frail, but had a very impressive strategic punch when needed, and I was fortunate to be part of her WBA team. On first joining the WBA board of directors, we kept dates, and they quietly gave me direction, references from the past successes, and consistent encouragement to position the WBA as a business women's association, which I believe all the volunteers achieved. Audrey was a mentor, a colleague, and I'm honoured to have known her. Part of Audrey's legacy lives on now in Whistler. In about 1994 or 5, we planned a weekend retreat in Whistler, which was by that point was where I was living, and I still do. I organised a brunch with about 20 Whistler businesswomen and the 15 WBA gals on retreat. The power in the room was palpable. The noise level was extraordinary. The Whistler women were blown away by the experience of meeting like-minded businesswomen. And it was only a matter of weeks before 3 of us had established the Whistler chapter of the WBA. After about 5 years, the Whistler chapter morphed into the Women of Whistler, which still holds the values and principles that Audrey and her founding team developed back in the late 70s. Today, every meeting in Whistler is sold out, always with a minimum of 80 vibrant, exciting women at each meeting. This is an amazing statement to the power of women networking. This in a community of only 9,000 permanent residents. The Audrey Paterson Circle continues as the Whistler Group has invited the Women's Voters Congress on 2 occasions to address the group with much success. Audrey, I thank you for creating and clearing the pathway to success for me and for many, many women, many that you've never even had the opportunity to meet. We thank you and salute you.